Hello there YouTube, I am Wheelchair21 and on today's rolling review we are looking at the Bandai Kishiryu Gattai Mini-Pla Set 2 Kishiryu-Oh 5 Nights. Now, unlike the first set which contained boxes 1 through 5, this one also includes 6, 7, and 8. For anyone who's gotten the first set, this is kind of a giant middle finger, especially because, you know, they could have just did the, I would say, the Q-Ranger method where we at least just get the Tyrannosaurus again with our 3 new parts. But then again, they could have just waited and gave out set 1 with all 8 pieces way later than having to do it twice. But then again, Bandai likes milking us for our money. I do like the front box art. I do like the promotional side art here, where it shows all the individual pieces assembled, and it does show all the individual forms that you can attain, such as 3 Knights, Mill Needle, I forget something, Saber, and Volcano. So you get like a whole lot of badass things, and then another profile view of DimeVolcano attached to actually Kishiryu-Oh. And then on the top we have our, suits. So you have all of your Ryusoulgers, and then you have the mecha. So honestly, I do like this box art. It's just a giant pain in the ass for anyone, like I said, who's gotten set 1. Alright, then as for our interior, it's more packaged like your assortment of 12s and 20s, where they're stacked side by side rather than the long ways of the normal average sets of just your particular assortment of your full, say, 6, or your full 5, or your full 8, as you see here. So, this is a more casual style box. Alright, after about a day for assembly, here are your 6 Kishiryu. You have the base 5 for your base Ryusoulgers, and then you also have DimeVolcano in set 2 of the Kishiryu Gattai. So, obviously, we have quite a bit to go through due to the fact that we have at least 8 combinations seen in show with these mecha. However, only 7 of them really matter due to the fact one is a fortress mode that was only used once thus far in the entire series. And then we also have the base obvious Kishiryu-Oh, which is just Tiremeigo by himself. So we got a lot to cover within the next half hour. And I'm just saying half hour only at the bare maximum of this video, since there is quite a lot of stuff to do. So starting off the rundown of our actual Kishiryu, or Kishiryu, we have Tiremeigo. With Tiremeigo, there's a cool thing that happens. So if you live in Japan and you don't want to buy an entire case, and you're going through the, I guess, small assortments, the single packs, you can just get Kishiryu-Oh or Tiremeigo by himself and practically be done with it, due to the fact that it does give you these little cod pieces, or these little replacement pieces if you don't get blue and pink, which supply the actual little shoulder drills and the back cannons or forearm cannons that he has when he transforms. And each of them usually come with a Ryusoul head, which is the Ryusoul when it flips into the mecha formation's faceplate / head. It's mostly just a base plastic with nice metallic stickers on it. It's not the greatest thing due to the fact that the back is rather hollowed out, but since you're looking at it from the front usually, or from the sides, it's not really too necessary to have a full, I guess you would say, displayable head, even though it would look a lot better and have a better, firmer grasp when moving it on its little ball joint. So, for Tiremeigo himself, he's actually rather unique and cool due to the fact that he's one big SOB who can become its own mecha. And we're not going to do the transformation right now into Ryusoul. We're just going to, into Kishiryu-Oh, we're just going to go right now into our base Tyrannosaurus, where it works on an interesting, I guess you would say, hinge joint that is shared with its robot mode. It takes 2 pegs, or 2 sockets to connect to the pegs as the tail falls off. This peg, where the peg goes into this hole, it's for your robot form. Where it goes into this part here, it's for your Tyrannosaurus mode, which is actually a really unique style. Due to the fact that in robot mode, this is its knee facing this way, you can actually make somewhat of the chicken-like Tyrannosaurus leg out of here, and you also have a bit of an ankle joint. You also have the tail that popped off already. It's not the sturdiest piece, honest to God, and it falls off way too much than it should. And you also have a swivel joint, which doubles as its waist in robot mode. You have an extra joint here for when it actually converts into robot mode in the actual waist and spinal cord. And then, as the tail wants to keep flying off and pissing me off, you have your jaw and head. The head itself does have a nice malleable jaw, and the hinge that it's supposed to fold up on to give you a bit of neck articulation isn't the sturdiest. I actually was able to use a codpiece meant for Gigant Kishiryu-Oh and add it here to give it a better leverage point so you can actually articulate his head to give him more dynamic poses. And then overall, like I said, you have your pieces from blue and pink to give it a more screen accuracy or deluxe mecha look rather than using your little codpiece here that can actually still double over as nice custom fodder joints if you want to make new combinations that aren't seen in your show. Following Tiremeigo, we have Triken and Ankyrose. Triken is obviously a really bad-ass blue Triceratops, which has spikes running actually through his ass and head. So you have the basic horns of a Triceratops, as well as the main horn that becomes a sword. It's a really nice, unique style for the actual Triceratops in general, and the fact that he has, like, weird butt blades makes him even cooler, as well as weird, like, stripes. I really do like how it looks overall for the design, and it looks just superb. I don't know why, I just really gravitate towards this little mecha quite a bit, and I can see why, just because of the playability of customization of where their joints are, why people are easily in love with them on the toy line rather than the actual show. With Ankyrose, it's kind of a tribute, I think, to Kyuger, more or less, due to the fact that Hammy used the actual Cyan Rangers mecha quite a bit for Ankylodon, so I feel like this Ankyrose is sort of a slight, subtle tribute, other than the fact that Asuna is supposed to be the heavy hitter of the team, having unfound limits of her strength. Like, she just can lift almost anything and do whatever the hell she wants. And it's a nice little mecha. However, the heads are interesting thus far, due to the fact that Triken kind of gives like a weird wolf vibe, at least with the main faceplate. I don't know why. I feel like it's it has a bit of a wolf style to it. Maybe it's just because of how the silver horns for the overall, like, Triceratops head looks like more of a jagged mane, like a wolf kind of can get when it gets too hairy, and the fact that it looks kind of like just brooding and mean. Maybe that's why I think wolf, even though it's a Triceratops, which is maybe a subtle reference. Maybe I'm thinking too into it, but maybe it's like a subtle reference to Jew Ranger and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Who knows? Then you have Pinks, who is the first and one of the only two faceplates to have actually the actual thing pulled down over the eyes. I think the only one who has it other than her thus far for the main mecha is actually Black, which we're going to be looking at in just a moment. Now we move on to our brothers, Green and Black, where Black is obviously the oldest and Green is the youngest. However, he's the first to actually combine with our mecha and our other Ryusoulgers. So we're going to go from left to right like we did with Triken and Ankyrose. So we have Tiger Lance and Mill Needle, where honestly, Black is the better mecha of the two, just by looking at this profile alone, personally for me. Reason why I don't like Tiger Lance too much isn't just by its design, but as a Mini-Pla, due to the fact of how the stickers are applied, it was rather hectic to get them to stay on, as well as for them to still make sure they stay on, as parts of them tend to flop and fly off. The Tiger itself is rather interesting. I do think it is rather nice, due to the fact that it does have the metallic stickers that don't want to ever really stay on, but it just kind of feels too big in that regard, due to the fact that the limbs are very static pieces. Like, even though there is a bit of, like, articulation to it, the legs just having no way to collapse once they start becoming parts of the weaponry, like the sword and, like, a forearm, like, claw, makes it just feel very big and bulky. The fact that it's also, like, a weird jousting tiger is interesting, due to the fact that most of the jousting part is connected to its hind leg, rather than, say, its front leg, is rather interesting to me. I think you would think it would want to be up further, so it doesn't collide too much with the overall face. And the fact that some of these peg ports can be rather tight and pop off the back leg when just assembling and reassembling your mecha combination and or base figure is rather wacky. As well as his head doesn't look that great. It kind of gives a weird bearish vibe than a cat-like tiger vibe, but it's not really the worst one that we've gotten, I think, out of the heads thus far. Or maybe, no, actually it is the worst. And then Mill Needle, my favorite little weird mecha thus far. I love the fact that this big, black, bulky SOB is very highly plated and very spiky and jagged. It's so badass that it also has a little gun tail / cannon that is used in other combinations. So overall, I think this is probably my favorite mecha of the base 5, or at least out of the base armament, it is my favorite of the 4. So it's really nice, it's really cool, and he has a really bitchin' faceplate, similar like Pink, where the actual face guard comes down and gives you like this really cool, real knight-like vibe. I really do like it. And one thing that I do gotta say is the way that the actual face part of the dinosaur looks off the side, it doesn't look that much dinosaur-like. It feels a little bit rhino-esque or some kind of bird, honestly. So, I don't know. I just enjoy this head the most out of the other 4, I think. Here's the final Kishiryu in the actual set, which is DimeVolcano. First off, I'm going to look at his little faceplate here, which is really blinged out with the nice metallic stickering of the very, I guess you would say, auburn, orangey brass stickers. I really like it. I really like how it gives like a very flaming face vibe, like a fiery knight look for the overall scheme. And I love the little, hyphenated areas with the other orange stickers for the face itself. Really, really gives this really volcanic vibe that you need to know is obviously DimeVolcano being a Dimetrodon from a volcano. I really love the clear orange plastic on this actual mecha. The base toy, the deluxe toy, has actually like a sparkled, freckled, glittery design with its plastic, whereas this is just base like clear plastic that you'll see on most Bandai Gundam kits that they sell as like, limited exclusives and events. So, it's a good, durable plastic, since it is the base Bandai clear plastic, so no one has to worry about it being brittle and cracking. The actual nice golden stickers give it a nice highlight and glimmer. I really do love this actual aspect, and just overall, it's one of my favorite mechas, and it really makes a really badass combination. However, in order of this video, it is the actual last one we'll be ending up looking at. Alright, now let's look at our mecha and its combination. Starting off with Kishiryu-Oh, the base form is just comprised of Tiremeigo. This form is rather bulky as a Mini-Pla, but a lot more trimmed down in the overall suit seen in the show, and it's a lot more agile and whatnot. However, the toy does actually get that well close to being heavily articulated to the overall suit, as it does feature several points of articulation. It actually has hinged shoulders. It has swivels. It has a bicep swivel. It has an elbow swivel. It has wrist swivel. Yeah, as it pops off the elbow because it's just on a peg joint, we do have a wrist. So that is a good feature. The cannons themselves move and flop about. It pegs right back into its socket. And that's probably one of the only problems about this, is its stability and how sturdy the points and sockets are to each other. It has a waist joint here. It has a hip joint that it shares with the overall Tyrannosaurus mode. It actually swivels. You have a actual knee joint, and you have your ankle and toe joint. So overall, this mecha has quite a range of articulation that actually not many Mini-Pla seem to have, due to the fact that they're all mostly centered around combining multiple parts together rather than putting multiple parts onto a single robot itself. So this here is a nice figure that a lot of people have come to overtly love right now due to just how much you can overall do with it. But then once you start getting into combinations, you have to start taking parts off, swapping them out, or just moving them all around. Now here we come to the first real transformation or combination in the overall series, where we have Kishiryu 3 Knights. Blue takes the right, Pink takes the left, and practically they just become armament parts for your mecha. Now in this form, this is where some of the articulation begins to get hindered, mostly due to how abruptly large the shoulders become when you add in Pink and Blue's rear ends, as well as the drill shoulder pieces, because they start knocking into our overall headpiece. But luckily, it doesn't really affect the elbow articulation or the actual bicep swivel, even though the arms tend to continue to pop off of this figure no matter what you freaking do. So it's one of those things of, while it is filling out the mecha now, it doesn't hurt the actual articulation too much as compared to possible future combinations. And it still looks at least somewhat aesthetically nice, but doesn't look as appealing as it does on the overall show. Yeah, that's kind of going to be the biggest argument about the combinations, is show versus toy, no matter what. Now, Kishiryu-Oh 3 Knights also has variations where blue and pink take over. This is Kishiryu Triken, which more predominantly features a more badass, bulkier right arm formation for our actual blue. It actually looks pretty cool where the butt becomes the core chest piece, and you actually have his Kishiryu Ryusoulger take over as the head. I really do like how it beefs up his actual right arm. Now, in the show, I believe only one drill attaches to the top part, and there's nothing on the bottom part. However, it just looks more immaculate, giving it that extra oomph where you're actually piercing into your opponent for, like, so many jagged areas. You have 2 drills, the sword, and the actual basic 2 Triceratops horns. And then the left side kind of stays the standard overall. But it does give this overall badass royal gauntlet-bladed fighter vibe, even though I don't know how aesthetically well it works for the actual suit actor. Following Kishiryu Triken, or Kishiryu 3 Knights Triken, you have Kishiryu Ankyrose, which is Asuna's main form, taking over the mecha. Now, in this one, it actually omits featuring basic Triken's head, as well as one of the cannons, and finally, the actual Tyrannosaurus head. Now, this one seems to be more oriented to just specifically be Asuna, and only Asuna in the mecha whatsoever. And it actually is rather interesting due to the fact that the right arm uses the tail as like a weird whip-like blade. Part of the drills become part of the hammer, and one of the guns becomes like a mallet. It kind of gives you that like actual spiked mallet warhammer style, where you have the blunt side and then you have more of a jagged side on the back. And I like that aesthetic. However, I personally do enjoy other variations I've seen online that actually combine her mallet with both drills, rather than having the actual gun here at one side and the drill on the other. It's a nice feature for her. However, it does look a little arbitrary. It is a little bit more dynamic than Triken's, though. So it's like one of those things of, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. However, you're going to have to reassemble the kit into 3 Knights when you start adding Tiger Lance and Mill Needle, because unlike them being like single pieces, like eventually DimeVolcano, they just kind of start tacking on to your base 3, eventually becoming 5 Knights. Alright, now we come to Kishiryu-Oh Tiger Lance, and honestly, for this being a 4-part mecha practically, it's not the best, because it took me a minute to figure it out, but the actual paws of the tiger itself are actually supposed to double as like thrusters and blasters on the mecha. And since they're actually just like one solid piece, it is a big detail that some people either look over or go, oh crap, it's not there, and makes the actual Mini-Pla form look very naked, because it doesn't have the blasters. They just look kind of stupid hanging off the arms than being like really souped up versions of the little pieces here that it omits. Like the fact that these paws are supposed to be even more badass versions of the little guns makes it look so much better in the actual show than the overall toy. And honestly, I don't really like the weird thigh guards. They just don't do anything for me. But the actual like real sword that it holds using the Tiger Lance is at least appealing for the overall set. However, it is a lot better when combined for 5 Knights. Then we come to Mill Needle. Kishiryu Mill Needle is probably one of my most favorite combinations in the overall set 2, featuring, you know, all 6 of your mecha. It looks pretty badass. I like the very basic knight/spiky outlook to him, which is a little bit of a combination between boxing and sumo for his fighting style, due to the fact that he does a lot of chops and palm strikes, and like the actual maces themselves kind of feel like weird boxing gloves. I like the fact that the drills become actual knee weapons in this form, and it really does stand out quite a bit. The black really does click well due to the fact that, one, his toes are black, his forearms or most of his arms are black, so it does mix real good with Tiremeigo, especially due to the fact that most of the mill needle parts start to sort of, I guess you would say, push out Ankyrose and Triken, who just sit on the shoulders there. Like, they cover it up and give it that extra little bit of bulk and defense that this form obviously is. It's like a mix of both, where it's a good defender as well as a good attacker, and I really do like that element of what it overall represents. And, you know, its strong style is pretty bitchin' nevertheless, and now we can finally, even though that was a bit of a tongue twister what I said, move on to Five Nights. And now we come to, like, the main combination of this entire set, which is Kishiryu-Oh Five Nights. And Five Nights is a huge cluster F of a combination. There are parts of it that aesthetically do look nice, with the overall Tiger Lance sword being apparent on the right hand, and the weird kind of, like, Tiremeigo shield blaster with the left hand between him and Mill Needle. But what I really do love is the Mill Needle cannon, which takes the tail of Mill Needle, combines it with the drills, and makes it really badass. Honestly, I think it would be a cool combination with actually DimeVolcano, which we'll get to next in the video. But overall, I think that, like, it just doesn't really gel well, specifically because of the weird tiger antenna coming out of the tiger tail of Tiger Lance. And I think it's too cumbersome overall for your mecha. And for the Mini-Pla, it does put quite a bit of weight on the ankles, which does screw up actual balance and distribution of weight to the overall figure, which could end up cracking the joints that the ankle are assembled through and upon. So it just doesn't really feel like a real sturdy combination, at least as a Mini-Pla. As the deluxe toy, it probably is a lot sturdier, but still has balancing issues due to the overall depth of holding the cannon in the left arm, holding the bulky saber in the right arm, and the torso piece in the front, as well as the additional back piece of the tail. But it's not the worst combination, but probably one of the most uniques we've had in the course of Sentai overall. Now, as for our final form, it is DimeVolcano, and with DimeVolcano, it actually is probably one of the more weirder combinations, but also my favorite one, just by aesthetically, the orange and the base gray just melds real well with the regular reds. So, with this form, you have it that the head combined with the drills for the actual torso as like a ramming armor piece. The actual base body and legs of DimeVolcano become like giant shoulder cannons. The back spine becomes a battle-bladed hatchet-like fan, and the tail becomes a nice little dagger sword. And it is a rather unique combination due to the fact that this is an attacker that also runs with DACA. You know, the term where it's like it shoots a lot of crap, it has a lot of guns. So it's a weird combination of being a ranged, I guess, attacker due to the fact of the shoulder cannons, and then you have nice, actual badass blades. Honestly, what would have been really cool is if you could take the spine and the tail and fuse it together to become a super sword, because that would be one bitchin' combination. From the side profile, you can see how arbitrarily weird it looks. However, it's going to start to simplify once you combine it with Kishiryu Neptune for Gigant Kishiryu-Oh. So once that comes out, it'll have a much more sturdier look, and I guess it would have a better profile from front to back overall. So, with this being our final combination, while it is my favorite one, it is probably also one of the weirdest ones, too, in the show outside of Five Nights. But, luckily, it doesn't hinder the overall articulation in this form. So, it's evaluation time, and for my final evaluation, the Ryusoulger Mini-Pla Kishiryu Gattai Volume 2 is actually a really good series since you get 6 mecha from the show. It only hurts if you've bought in the previous set, which is just 3 knights, Tiremeigo, Triken, and Ankyrose. With this, you get everything if you want the main 5 members of your team, as well as DimeVolcano, an auxiliary mecha in the series, which provides a pretty cool combination with our Kishiryu-Oh. Now, the only shame is that because it does combine with actually Mosa Rex to make Spino Thunder, you're going to get another one of these in the upcoming Pack 3, which either is releasing at the time of this video coming out or has already in general. So it is one of those things of the Kishiryu series in Mini-Pla line is forcing fans to double dip and buy duplicates of stuff if you just want the pure case volume. But if you live in Japan, you can just wait till cases are opened up and distributed as single packs, where you can buy them in stores for like $5 to $8. And since it also is a parts former, you can also create weird little chimera bits. Yeah, this is all that you have from the leftover parts of all of your individual auxiliary or your, I guess, non-red mechas. So you can create weird homunculi creatures or combine it with other parts or make other formations. I think that's the real idea of the overall toys and gimmick, is that you don't have to follow the instructions, nor do you have to follow the overall TV presentation of these toys. You can make whatever the hell you want. If you want to make weird, creepy-looking chimera creatures, do that with your leftover parts. Do you want to find ways to keep stacking them on top of your main mecha? Do that. If you want to take mecha that are entirely left out, start forging new things. And I think it brings a new kind of collect and connect creative value, which we sort of did see in Bandai of America's Megazord line with the Build a Megazord gimmick, but I think it works a lot better when you at least keep that gimmick within the theme of the show itself, rather than across various toy lines, because then it just doesn't keep to one standard aesthetic. So I think this is going to be a nice playability value, whether it is the actual Mini-Pla line or the deluxe toy line, but I think it'll be a lot sturdier from deluxe to Mini-Pla because of the overall addition of articulation and just the overall like lighter hollow scale of these model kits. That's the compare and contrast. But I think most people don't care which version they have, as long as they have something to display. Overall, though, if you love this review, please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe here to my YouTube channel, Wheelchair21, as well as check me out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also, you can check out my website, HeroClub.com, and if you want to buy this set, you can either check out places like CS Toys International, AmiAmi, HobbyLink Japan, Amazon, and eBay sellers. Overall, I'll see you all next time with another rolling review and/or Doyle's DVDs.